Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've got a full tank review for you of a can opener. Never thought I'd be reviewing can openers on my YouTube channel, but this is going to be the start. This is the first and the only can opener that I am going to review. It is a tier 10 British doubled barreled heavy tank that is able to launch a salvo of 840 damage at its opponents with no preparation time, unlike the ST2. However, like the Contradictious, it has to sacrifice a lot of accuracy to be able to use that double mode. So whether the payoff for that instant gratification is going to be more useful than the horrendous accuracy that comes along with it is something that I'm going to try and break down today. On top of that, this vehicle has phenomenal frontal armor, very good side armor as well, a turret that's practically impenetrable, apart from a small weak point on top that when the vehicle uses some of its gun depression, it's very hard to be able to hit. This thing is looking like it might be an absolute force, if not one of the better tier 10 heavy tanks in the game. And today I'm going to let you know exactly why and how to prepare and set up this vehicle. So let's compare this can opener to the traditional British turreted heavy at tier 10, the Super Conqueror, and the newly buffed M5Y. And I'll be covering that in a video likely tomorrow with regards to how much that buff has affected that tank. So if you get confused by the M5Y stance, that's because it has been buffed in this patch as well. So immediately we notice the can opener has 2,520 damage per minute. Not bad, but let me clarify, as this is a double barrel tank, it can't use a gun rammer, so you can't really improve that as much with the other two classic single shot vehicles. Penetration wise, 258 with its AP rounds is great. Its APCR rounds at 318 is okay, and its HE rounds with 60mm of pen and 520 alpha is nothing special. The Super Conqueror, much better HE and better gold rounds as well. The alpha damage of 420 is right in the middle of the other two vehicles in this comparison, and shell velocity wise, it's pretty much in competition with the other two tanks. Luckily, this vehicle can carry so much ammunition that you don't really have to worry about taking standard rounds, gold rounds, HE rounds. You can take a whole wealth of them and fire what you need at your tanks. So considering this vehicle has better alpha damage than the Super Conqueror but worse than the M5Y's buffed gun, 2 seconds aim time is great, 0.33 accuracy is great. The gun handling on this tank, it's okay. It's not fantastic inside its single mode. However, when you take this vehicle and you activate the double mode, the gun handling becomes perfect. Accordingly, it's going to be a bit of an argument as to whether you should use vert stabs in this tank, because you get zero value from this vehicle with vert stabs inside the double mode, but you get good value inside the single mode, so it'll be a matter of preference. Gun depression wise, 10 degrees is excellent, but not nearly as good as the M5Y's new 12 degrees of gun depression. Speed-wise, 34 forwards is nothing special. 14 backwards is pretty good, better than the Super Conqueror. Its power-to-weight ratio is practically identical to the Super Conqueror, and this is a heavy tank. It weighs 90 tons. That's fabulous for ramming your opponents if you can get that speed up, and you're pretty much safe from everything ramming you, apart from the true super heavies like the Object 705A, or the Type 5 Heavy, or the Mouse at tier 10. Its turret traverse isn't fantastic, and I'd also like to clarify, when you enter that double mode, its turret traverse goes down to 20, which is horrendous. The tank traverse at 22 is also not very good and gets destroyed by the M5Y. Armor-wise, 200 at the front, 100 at the side. Doesn't look that good compared to the Super Conqueror, but probably better on the lower plate. And 260 on the front of the turret and 110 at the side doesn't look as good as the M5Y in that regard. However, when we take a look at the 3D model of this vehicle, you will quickly see that this is a force to be reckoned with. So from the front, when you're firing regular rounds with 258mm of pen, we can see that the whole of the upper plate is protected, the whole of the turret is protected, the mantlet is protected, you have a weak point on top and a vulnerable lower plate, a lot like on a Super Conqueror. If they load gold, 318mm of gold, now the whole of the upper plate is an easy pen when you're not using your gun depression, but if you angle it, you will be able to pull off some ricochets, but you do have a weak point down the side if you do that against gold rounds. Let me clarify, only gold rounds. The front Driver's hatch, I guess, is a relative weak point, but it's not really that much of a weak point against regular rounds. It's only a weak point against gold rounds, so you're going to have to load the gold to open up this expensive can. The real craziness of the can opener is when it gets to use its 10 degrees of gun depression. As soon as it uses its 10 degrees of gun depression, you just can't really pen it with standard rounds, and this is tier 10 standard rounds at all. Even tier 10 tank destroyers are going to have a 50-50 at penning the driver's hatch on this thing when it's using its gun depression. If the vehicle turns slightly towards the side, we will also see that that driver's hatch will become even better still. But keep in mind that if it turns its turret really to the side, that you will have an opportunity to overmatch this with 61mm caliber guns. If it overturns the tank, the side armor does become vulnerable. But one of the crazy things about this is when this thing fights against tier 8 or tier 9 tanks and it just angles like this, maybe a little bit more like that. If this is going to be a hard vehicle to pen. Even the side armor on this tank is thick. You've still got like 250mm of protection all along the turret here. Sorry, on the side of the hull here. And the side is 240 when angled like this. This is going to be a really nasty tank for tier 8s and tier 9s to challenge. The problem with having two barrels is if you fire out of one of them, then you'll have to fire out of the other one for the next shot. This means the side scraping around this corner can be easy, for example, if you need to fire out of this barrel, but if you have to fire out of this barrel, you will have to be exposing your lower plate if you side scrape this way. All in all, this vehicle has very, very good frontal hull armor, although I don't really feel it's that much different to a Super Conqueror when you also factor in that that upper plate weak point will be exposed, even if it's using its 10 degrees of gun depression. One thing I'd like to stress, however, is that if you think that you can fire heat at this vehicle, you are going to need big boy heat, like 340 to be able to go through that weak point. All in all, an absolute terrifying vehicle with regards to its armor. And when you add to this the fact that the vehicle's got 2,400 points of durability, which is the unnerfed Super Conqueror, this thing's looking like it's going to be an absolute juggernaut. A final mention should be made to the vehicle's relatively poor view range of 390, but with the right field mods, it's not going to be a problem. Crew-wise on this vehicle, if you're looking to try and improve this, if you're looking to try and get ready for the next patch of World of Tanks, you're going to need two loaders, a driver, a gunner, and a commander. So if you want to move, for example, your Super Conqueror crew into this tank, you're going to need an additional loader, so get training those. Maybe you want to take the TOG out onto the battlefield a few times. Crew skills wise, I would recommend you take Brothers, Repairs, Recon, Emergency, Coordination, and Practicality on this tank. On your gunner, I would recommend Brothers, Repairs, Designated Target, Armorer, Deadeye. And then if you want to sit still to launch accurate doubles, you can't really go wrong with Concentration, but quick aiming with that poor turret reverse will help you to get your shots on the target quicker. Snapshot, great inside the single shot mode, useless inside the double shot mode on this tank. For your driver skills, Brothers, Repairs, Engineer, Off-Road Driving. And then you have really a choice of three. I personally would like to take Smooth Ride for my single shot mode and possibly Clutch Braking for that poor hull. However, if you like ramming in this tank, and remember it weighs 90 tons, I would take Controlled Impact. For both of your loaders, I would recommend Brothers, Repairs, Intuition, Ammo Tuning, and then really it's choosing two of the last four. If you like to live life dangerously, don't take Safe Stowage, take yourself some close combat and some Adrenaline Rush. If you find yourself sniping, maybe take Perfect Charge instead. Equipment-wise on this tank, I'm going to be using a full firepower build. It's the build that allowed me to 3-mark my Contradictious, and I'm confident of using it on the can opener as well. I'm going to be going with vents, an aiming device, and a turbo. Now, the reason why I'm using an aiming device and not vert stabs is because, remember, this vehicle has perfect gun handling inside the double mode. You don't need to improve 0.01. It literally, even with vert stabs, you can move the gun however you want, and it has absolutely no bloom. However, inside the double mode, it has 1.2 accuracy, which you want to do everything that you can to improve. Accordingly, with the build I recommend, I'm going to still have 0.9 accuracy inside the double mode. You could get this better if you took Concentration, but that would require you to sit still for 3 seconds firing a double, and that doesn't happen at all. Unless you're sniping at long range, but why are you sniping at long range? That double is usually meant for 200 meters and less, or targets of very, very soft armor at decent distances where it's an opportunity shot. My second build on this vehicle will drop that turbo and instead use a durability device along with the double firepower option. Field mods wise, I would recommend taking the all-terrain suspension to give yourself extra mobility. 100% take the accuracy here, then pump up the vehicle's view range. I would personally take the firepower slot here for the aiming device if you don't have a bounty or a bond one to put on this tank. For the penultimate field mod, take the reverse speed. And for the final field mod, this is going to be up to you. Personally, for me, I will actually reduce the ramming damage I receive, the crew injuries, and the HE shell damage, because remember, this vehicle has perfect dispersion values when it's inside the double. But also, please remember that this vehicle doesn't have the best dispersion values when moving, and so, as we're not going to be taking vert stabs, we're going to be taking an aiming device, your single shot performance will suffer if you do this. Anyway, I think that's quite enough theory crafting. Let's go open up some cans. Alright, so here we go, my first ever game, at least for YouTube, right, in a British double-barreled tier 10 tank. So you can tell what gun the can opener is using because its can will be open. So you can tell whether it's going to be firing 2, you can tell whether it's going to be firing 1. Let me clarify that this vehicle's top speed is limited to, excuse me, sorry, 20 kilometers an hour when it's inside the double. Accordingly, when you're driving around, you don't want to have the double enabled. You want to go for the single on this vehicle. With the single mode, you're going to be faster. You're going to have that base top speed of 34, which is going to go to 35 with engineer, and then that is going to go up to 40 depending on what flavor of a turbo that you're going to be using. Because this thing can't use a gun rammer, I would be very surprised if anyone would play this thing without a turbo, unless you are going to be, I guess, playing on close quarters maps. This thing's armor, it just does so well. You just can angle it like this, and its lower plate is great, and we can see that even with gold rounds, we're struggling to find areas that we can penetrate the can opener on the enemy team. Still seems so weird to be saying can opener, can opener, can opener. If I say it 3 times, do you think one's going to appear behind me? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I don't want a can opener appearing behind me, unless Tanya's going to pull out the ultimate troll on me. Yeah, so the can opener, an absolute beast with regards to its frontal armor. This gun, the single shot, it's okay. It's okay. I will be firing a lot of gold with this tank, although remember, with intuition you can actually switch out both barrels at the same time. Unlike the ST2, for example, where you switch 2 for 1, which is not a good trade. With the can opener you can switch both barrels at the same time. It's a great vehicle for intuition, and I can imagine there's going to be quite a few disgusting HE doubles on this vehicle as well. The gun handling is just not bad, and with that aiming device, it actually feels really nice to be playing a heavy tank that just gets supreme accuracy with that aiming device. It's not going to be as good as, for example, the new Type 71 with its buffed aiming device. Oh, let me clarify. You can actually double to boost up slopes, but here's the caveat. You can't push beyond your max speed of the vehicle, so you should only double to go up a slope if you couldn't achieve more than 20 kilometers an hour, depending on whether you're using a turbo up the slope. So if you utterly want to min-max, you're going up a very steep slope that you can actually double to go up it, and that might mean that you actually find the shot that possibly wins the game. And you hit the EBR with that delicious HE shell with the intuition switch. Oh, that moment there. That was min-max to the extreme. Let me clarify once again that if you shoot both barrels out the back, it will give you a speed boost. However, because of the limited top speed inside the double, you can't go faster than 25 even with a turbo, so you must be going up an extreme slope and have a long time to reload once you get to the top of the slope for it to be effective. In that situation, in that one small example, it was actually correct to fire both of those barrels up or out the back of the tank by turning the turret around to be able to get those extra shots. I'm quite concerned about the can opener because in these kind of situations, it just feels like it's such an oppressive force. That's not a big lower plate to hit, and luckily I am using bond vents and a bond aiming device, so I'm able to hit that. But it's tricky. In this situation, I'm going to just want to fire one final double hurrah, but look at that reticle. It's a pineapple, right? Will the pineapple hit? Well, we're going to give it a go. Are we going to possibly hit this guy with our pineapple reticle? I need to get back to base. The reason why I'm looking like this is I'm thinking, oh, come on, I really want to take a shot. Oh, how about this? Go on, go on. I'll try and get the double. They hit, but they don't actually pen. I expect there'll be players out there who probably just drive around with the double activated and think that this tank is limited to 20 kilometers an hour or 25 with a turbo, depending on what, well, 26 with a turbo, depending on what kind of a turbo that you're going to be using on this vehicle. I do think that the turbo is mandatory on this tank because when you're inside that double mode, if you want to chase down an opponent who's relatively quick at reversing, then the turbo will change your top speed from 20 up to possibly 26, 27 with engineering if you're using a Bond turbo. So far, just so easy for the Canopener. It's got enough ability to get around. It's not slow. When it gets there, it's got a choice of 420 up to 840 damage. It's got okay gold pen. It's got great frontal armor as well, so you can make risky plays. We drove out in front of the 2 gold rounds there from the Badger and the Canopener. And now let's see how it duels another Canopener. So right through the side, turn in, angle my armor. I think that was a double they fired. So now I know that they've got like a 20-second reload on this tank. I'm just going to keep pumping one. We can tell now that they've gone into single shot mode because they've actually switched the barrels, as we can see. But luckily my rate of fire just outpaces this guy. We're using the vents, using the premium consumable brothers-in-arms. They're really struggling. They bounce a gold round off us. They clearly are not experienced with their can opener yet. And yeah, we are opening this player up. So in this situation, I'm going to look for the driver's hatch. As we can see there, it's a weak point. They put a shot through my gun and also through my hull. And I'm wondering, shall I go for a double here? You see me switch to the double and boom, both barrels right through their weak point. I'm experienced in my British doubles right now. I 3-marked my Contradictious. I'm feeling comfortable with how to fight here. And in that situation, it's single, single, single into the final double to, yeah, really open up the that tin can on the enemy team, right? Now, that guy was clearly struggling. They were clearly struggling. This is new. It's a new tank for most people who haven't been playing the Contradictious a lot. I personally thought the Contradictious was going to be better than it is. I still think it's very good. I'm still packing like a mid-60s win ratio in that tank and getting very good combines. If I was able to 3-mark the vehicle, it must be okay combines. But yeah, I thought the vehicle was going to be a little bit better. With regards to the Canopener, I think this vehicle is pretty scary. It's definitely just a step up on the Contradictious, right? To have this extra pen, to have the lack of the weak point on top. With the Contradictious, because the gun, the turret is linked to the gun, when you used your gun depression, it made it so that your weak point was exposed. However, with the Canopener, its weak point feels like it's a much harder target to hit because of this fat mantlet that sticks up. And it means that when you use any of your gun depression, you don't have to worry. And bro, we just took a FV230 B183 shell, I guess, to the upper hull there for a paltry 300 damage. So I'm worried about this E100. I'm not so worried about the Canopener, who must be just behind me here. I'm still looking for this FV to look for an opportunity, but oh dear, here comes the E100. Oh well, he whiffs the shell. I'm still looking for the FV. Ah, my shell whiffs there. Must be the bad dispersion while we're moving there. But it's okay, because I should still be able to reload quicker for this E100, so as long as I don't miss the shot on the lower plate, I should still be good. There we go. Right through the E100's lower plate, but uh-oh. 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 He just... Wow. Okay. The dude just whiffed me from above. I can't see the 183 shell. Oh, looks like he got me when I was turning my turret to the side on that engine deck up the top. We finished them off with 4 kills and 6,800 combined. Just a monster game for a monster tank. Absolutely terrifying vehicle to face on the battlefield. So next up, we are going to be rolling out on Fjords in, once again, a full Tier 10 matchup. Interesting that this vehicle, it performs pretty well against Tier 10 tanks. I can only imagine what this thing is going to do against Tier 8s and Tier 9s. Against Tier 8s, having 840 alpha damage with its double with great gold pen, yeah, it's not going to be a nice tank for them to have to play against. And we can see this vehicle's not even slow to be able to get into position. All right, here we go. It is the can opener versus the M5Y. And that's how we get the party started, right? That tank has been massively buffed. I'm going to give my kind of a final opinion on the M5Y versus the can opener in the next battle, not in this one. But we're going to be dueling what is likely to be the new flavor of the month tank. But as we can see, we're slow with this double, but with the turbo, we're not that slow. I'm just hoping that we're going to be able to find the shot, and we don't. Look for the can opener above, and do you see how this tank has no bloom now? No bloom in the double. Absolutely no bloom in the double. Obviously, when your gun gets knackered, that's not good. And I realized that I probably should have just gone for a single here on top of that, on top of the tank, the M5Y. So I switched to the single mode here to try and be a little bit more intelligent. Clearly, that M5Y on the enemy team is a good player, and they're testing out what is likely to be that new meta heavy. And I made a bit of a misplay by trying to catch the second double on him. I got a little bit greedy. If I'd gone for a single, I would have lowered his hit points and then not had to have such a long reload. I think it would have been by far the better play. So with these doubles, you've got to be a little bit careful, right? And in this situation now, he's kind of out-trading me. He's got more alpha damage. So it's not a good trade for me to trade 1 for 1. Although I do have more hit points than him, so I will be able to win the trade war eventually, but it's not going to be a great result for me, as I won't have the hit points to be able to go on later on in the battle. I'm also worried about this can opener on the enemy team making their way here. Am I going to go for a double here? Or am I going to just keep going for singles? I'm still going to go for singles because I just don't feel... I feel like if I double him and I miss, I'm in so much trouble. But now, look what I'm going to do. Now, I fired the single. Now we're going to go for the double and get blapped, mate. So, we started that fight with a double and we ended that fight with a double. I think that might be a really good option for the can opener as well. The flexibility that you have with this doubles allows you to just outplay. Allows you to outplay. That double at the beginning while they're advancing into position, the starting word and the final word with that double once we knew we'd got them down to, should we say about 750 hit points. I probably wouldn't try to double my opponents if they're on 800, if it means that you're going to get caught afterwards. I'd probably just fire a single and see whether it's a high roll and then go for a single, or, you know, if you're going to go for a double, you're definitely going to finish them off in that situation. Some intuition switching here out for HE, hoping that I'm going to find this FV230 I should be okay to just go hold down on this E4 here. You know, take a swing at me, have a swing at the can opener, see how it works out for you. And now I'm going for the double because I want to have some kind of like memes. Oh, 261 catches me in the side. That's not ideal. Didn't like that very much. Going to switch out to AP, keep inside the double mode here. It makes me slow. I was hoping that he was going to come around the corner. He wasn't. And you can see that this vehicle, it's slow, but it's not that slow. I want to get behind this guy, but I don't want to get caught. Yeah, I'm a one-shot for him. We bounced the M5Y, another one on the enemy team. And we're just going to sneak around. When he gets bored of us and he focuses on whoever's in front, then I should be able to come down and get this guy. But, yeah, not if the FV405 is going to get him. And I thought I was in a bit of an Austin Powers kind of moment here. But luckily, I was actually able to turn out awkwardly and then figure out when the buildings get a little bit wider that I should be able to turn around, he says. So, let's continue to get forwards, go after the enemy team. And oh, there's the FV405. I'm a little bit slow on the reactions. We're going to HE switch, and that's who's the FV now, mate? Who's the FV now, mate? Yeah, 1,056 damage with the HE. For that double. And you know what? That's not even that much of a high roll. I should do 1,040 damage with those two HE shells. Absolutely baffling stuff. Well, it looks like I haven't seen the STRV once again. Whoops-a-daisy. I'm going to do a AP switch here, see if we can be able to get a double, which should be able to catch the side of that vehicle. But this is 120mm, so it won't be able to go through the lower plate. A little bit of a shame. But it will still be able to catch the side of the STRV. And when you've got that 840 damage, nobody wants to really get caught in the side by the can opener, right? So this thing, bombing it around inside with the double prepared, it's not too bad. Hopefully I can catch the back. Didn't quite catch the back. Okay, let's make our way back towards the base now. See if we can catch the final can opener here. 8 times speed. Don't think that this thing is like a new EBR, right? But oh so satisfying to... Oh, a double HE again. Here we go. Double HE again. Another 900 damage for him. It didn't feel like it was going to be a 5,100 kind of combined game, but it was. So please do keep in mind that the side profile of this tank is huge, and the rear profile of this tank, you've only got 40 millimeters of armor on the hull, and it's flat. So do take advantage of this, boys and girls. Everybody will be able to pen the backside of the can opener with HE and really be able to open this tank up. So here we go, once again rolling out on Junkie. Now I'd like to add a caveat to this tank review that all of my experiences are on the test server currently. And what kind of tanks do you think there are on the test server? Next patch is looking like the mother of all hull down metas. There are buffed Type 71s, there are buffed M5Ys, and there is everyone trying out the can opener. So the issue is that on the test server that there were so many different hull down vehicles that it was probably tricky to see what this vehicle would be truly capable of. But I guess if it can win engagements against other hull down vehicles, then it does show that what it's capable of when it's kind of fighting the other tanks that aren't going to be the hull down monsters fighting it, right? I do think that the can opener is going to be very good, if not excellent, if not just a touch OP. Personally, for me, I think the lack of weak point on top of the vehicle, especially when it's exposed, when it's using its gun depression, the fact that it doesn't really have any issues with the mantlet on this tank, and the fact that that driver's hatch weak point is only really a weak point to gold, strongly suggests to me that this vehicle is going to be a little bit outrageous. I just think it's too comfortable, it's a little too fast, its armor's a little too thick, it's just got all of it's got all the notches dialed up a little bit. I guess the only thing that we really need to consider is that its lack of gun rammer is going to mean that its OK DPM never gets great. It doesn't have the alpha damage that an M5Y will have, and it doesn't have the gun depression now that an M5Y will have with its 12 degrees of gun depression. And so I'm in a bit of a pickle here right now, boys and girls, because what Wargaming are about to do with the M5Y. Also, let me take a moment to pause this to highlight that if you do catch a can opener from the side, that you can hit the side of this driver's hatch, but you must hit kind of like the inside and not kind of like this outer flap. I'm in a bit of a pickle, and that is because Wargaming are buffing the Type 71 and they're buffing the M5Y in the same patch that they're adding a can opener. Are we going to hit this double? Yeah, we are. There we go. You can double me, mate. I'll double you. Guess we'll call it evens, right? So Wargaming are buffing the M5Y and the Type 71 in the same patch they're planning to release the can opener. Now, the issue with that is that the M5Y in its buff state, I don't know whether it's going to go through the test server with keeping those buffs, because I think the M5Y is good enough as it is now. I want to talk all about it in the video tomorrow. I want to try and stay focused on the can opener. I'm not sure if the M5Y will keep the buffs. If the M5Y keeps the buffs, then the can opener is going to be good, but I don't think it'll be good as the M5Y. We're still going to have, the M5Y will still have a bigger weak point on top, for sure. So we can see there, it's incredibly challenging to hit that weak point on top of the can opener, even when it's not using all of its gun depression. But if the M5Y keeps its buffs, I don't think the can opener is going to be as good as it. I think it'll be better than the Type 71, because even though the Type 71's hull armor is decent, then again, you know, the Type 71 and the M5Y can both use gun rammers. So while this vehicle will kind of be more accurate, much more accurate than the M5Y, it's not going to have the double aim accuracy that the Type 71 has. So I think this vehicle is going to be very good. I think it's better than a Super Conqueror, with the Super Conqueror's nerfed form. Well, how did that guy manage to get me there? I think he managed to hit me right on the side. I think I'm over-angled here in this situation. So I do think it's going to be better than the Super Conqueror. However, I don't see this thing being that crazy compared to the other crazy plans that Wargaming have for the next patch. I think it'll be comparable to the Type 71 and the M5Y in Wargaming's buffed form for those vehicles. However, what I will say is that if we were to take the equation of the M5Y and the Type 71, what if we were to take them out of the equation, that this vehicle, if it was going in without those 2 tanks being buffed, I'd say this thing is the new hold down daddy of tier 10. But considering that those 2 tanks are getting mega buffs, I don't think I could really call this thing the hold down daddy. It's more if there's like a trio of hold down siblings that are going to be going into the game. And that really is the issue. But I think that next patch, the can opener is not going to be the problem. It's going to be one of the parts of a problem of Wargaming kind of returning World of Tanks to this hold down meta that maybe a lot of you experienced in a few years ago in 2021, before the Chieftain was nerfed, before the Kranvong was nerfed, right? I think it was probably the worst meta ever in World of Tanks, with everyone playing hold down. And the way that I like to coin the phrase is that when everyone's hold down, nobody's hold down. If that makes sense. Because, you know, when everyone's got those... Oops. Alright, mate, you got me, but I got you a little harder. 1,100 damage with a double HE salvo on that FV230. And once again, we clap out kind of like 6,300, 6,400 combined. In a tough game against other can openers, which we just outperformed them here. But as I was saying, when everyone is hold down, no one's hold down, because no one's able to penetrate each other. And I think that the real big difference between this tank and the other 2 tanks is that when this one's hold down, its turret doesn't have the weak point, whereas the M5Y, if it points the gun at you, you're able to pen it. And with the Type 71, well, its weak point is mostly always exposed. As we can see here, even if it's using all of its 7 degrees of gun depression before the hydropneumatic suspension kicks in. And even if the hydropneumatic suspension kicks in, obviously the weak point is still going to be exposed. So is the can opener going to be the new best tier 10 British heavy? Yes, I think it is going to be better than the Super Conqueror. Is it going to be better than all of the other hold down tanks in the game? No, it'll be comparable to them with different nuances. Is this tank going to be unbearably toxic for everything but the highest of penetration tier 10 tanks? Yes, it really is. Do I think this tank deserves a little bit of a nerf before it reaches the live server? You know what, if I was going to do something, I would probably change the driver's hatch. I think the driver's hatch is just a little too thick, and I think it should be a bit of a bigger weak point. I also think that the weak point on top of the tank, I do feel like it could have been just a little bit bigger to give the opponents an opportunity to catch it, even it is sitting hull down. I'm personally quite surprised that Wargaming gave this vehicle so much damage per minute, and honestly I was expecting it to have a little bit more alpha damage. I understand it's only got 120mm, but considering that you can already do 880 damage with the ST2, I was kind of hoping maybe the can opener would have like 490 alpha damage and have a significantly longer reload to really make it have the last word of alpha inside World of Tanks. Currently, as it stands, the ST2 will still be the daddy of alpha, but this vehicle is a whole different animal when it comes to hold down. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was my full tank review on the can opener. I'd like to clarify that it's currently in the first iteration of the test server and statistics are subject to change. Really hope you enjoyed this tank review, or it was just useful for you knowing how to counter these vehicles, or whether you want to grind to be able to get one in the next patch. If it was, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what you think about the can opener in the comments down below. Do you think it looks absolutely crazy overpowered, or do you think that it's pretty much just comparable to the other hold down tanks that we already have in the game? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.